Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Beyond The Barclay with me, Jez Davies. I am, of course, joined with my illustrious co-host, Mr. Morgan Hewitt. Hello, Morgan. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Thank you very much. Really looking forward to this episode today with former Canary, Mr. Elliott Bennett. Hello, Elliott. How are you?
There, Jez, quickly. Your glasses. That's better. Screen glare.
Reflection.
Yeah. You can see everything from these. It's yeah, there we go. How are you? Thanks for coming on.
No problem at all. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Not at all. I mean, we obviously listened to you, or shall I say, I listened to you a couple of weeks ago on Canary Call, and was just yeah, thought you came across really well. To be fair, do you do much media work at all, or is this sort of your first steps into it?
No, I've done. I've got a weekly show with BBC Radio Shropshire where I do like sports hour on a Friday night, like previewing the weekend's games for Shrewsbury, Telford, and the New Saints of Oswestry. So we do that. I do quite a bit of commentary with BBC Radio Shropshire now on Shrewsbury, just because it's local to me. And then Chris Coram and Rob Butler asked me to if I fancy doing Norwich Blackburn, and obviously two of my favourite clubs, to be honest, the ones that I've spent the longest time at, really, other than my academy days. And couldn't wait to come on, and it was great just to come back to Carrow Road, because it's actually the first time I've been back to Norwich other than playing. So it was just nice to come back and be around the city.
No, that's fantastic. And before we carry on, we must have a look at this puzzle that you're showing us before you came on. So I'm sure
you really want to see it again.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So, Elliott Bennett, you're knee deep in a 1,000,000-piece puzzle or something like that. Tell us more about it.
So my mother-in-law bought it for the kids for Christmas, and my wife and daughter decided this afternoon, let's have a go at this puzzle, because Nanny's coming over this afternoon. So I said, oh yeah, that'd be good. So I've been out and about, just messing around, and kids' last day of half term and all that, and then come back into this puzzle that's got about 6 pieces in place, the rest of them everywhere. And they said, my little girl's gone, Daddy, do you mind making a start on it, see if you can help us? I was like, yeah, of course. 4 hours later, I'm still here, and I've not even I've just about got the outside done. Yeah, so
fantastic.
Not ideal at all.
That's where I usually start with the 20-piece puzzles that I'm currently doing with my 4-year-old. It's usually the outside, isn't it, what you got there?
I wish it was 20 pieces. Those are the days.
Absolutely.
What's it going to be of? What's it going to be of when it's supposed to be finished?
Honestly, do you want to actually see it?
Yes, please.
Fantastic.
And then do you know what's going to happen to it once it's got built?
Go on, get destroyed.
It's going to get put back in the box. Yeah.
That's the most pointless thing about jigsaws, isn't it? You build them and you spend so long building them, and then all of a sudden, bosh, back in the box.
Back in the box, and then 5 years later, your wife goes, "We need to get rid of some stuff." Oh, remember this puzzle you built? Yeah. Charity shop. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, there we go.
Get it framed though, and put it on the wall.
Or you could sign it and sell it on eBay.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it? Would you put it on your wall?
He probably would, to be fair.
With your signature on, yes, I would. Yes, I would.
I'll tell you what. If I ever get to finish it, I'll sign it. I'll get it framed and I'll send it to you. I'm more than happy to you to have it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what we could do, Jez. If Elliott Bennett's up for this, we'll give it away. If you finish that puzzle, you get it framed, we'll give it away as a podcast giveaway item.
Why not?
I'll be honest, by the time that you finished this podcast in 30 years' time and we're all gone, it still won't be finished.
Oh, we are. I'd like to think I'd still be alive by then. Actually,
oh yeah, you guys will. I'm on about me. I'm a bit older than you guys.
No, you're not.
I wouldn't say you're much older than us, too.
I feel it.
Yeah, don't we all?
Jez, sorry, Jez, that's a really good point. Because is it good to call you Elliott, Benno? What would you prefer?
Benno's fine, yeah. That's what most
Okay.
Norwich fans would say, probably would know me by. So yeah, that's cool.
I feel
Fantastic.
like Elliott sounds like a school teacher. Benno,
Yeah, not a big fan of Elliott.
Yeah, fair enough. Benno, so Jez has got the fear of God just tickling his shoulders at the moment, haven't you, Jez? Why? It's because he turns 40 in 3 weeks. Is it about 3 weeks, 4 weeks time?
Yeah. 12th of March, yeah.
And he's terrified.
Well,
Don't be scared. What are you doing for it? That's all I want to know. Please tell me you're celebrating hard.
Yeah, we're going to have a few beers after the Norwich Preston game, I think it is. Have a little pub crawl around Norwich.
Yeah, nice. You got to make a moment of it.
No, absolutely. It's I've moved away from Norwich for 20 years, so very rarely get a chance to do a pub crawl. So visit some of the old haunts when I was growing up, and probably end up in the waterfront, which I'm sure you've frequented a few times.
Not me. I'm a professional.
Of course. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Before we jump into the questions, I do want to speak about one of our partners, the Freemason Arms, and you can get 10% off food and drink on match days for both home and away games. But Benno, looking back at over your career, which moments stand out as the most defining for you, both on and off the pitch?
I think moving to Brighton, so not Norwich related, but moving to Brighton from Wolves, I think, getting away from being a kid from the academy at Wolves and really making my own, kind of little stamp on the game. I'm not saying it was a big one, but spreading my wings, if you like, and coming from underneath the big umbrella of being on loan from Wolves, and just being part of a team. And I love my time down in Brighton. I'd say that was probably the biggest moment for me, because it was me and my wife had just moved into our first. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time; she was my girlfriend. But we just moved into our first apartment in Telford, where we're from. And literally 9 months later, I'm telling her I'm going to Brighton, and I'd like you to come with me, but I understand you leaving your family, your friends. And she took that leap. So I'd say that's probably the biggest defining moment of my life and my football career, because she took that step with me, and
of course,
we're still married and got 2 lovely kids now, and about 1,000 house moves later because of football and just moving around, because you've got to do what you got to do. And I think that's probably the biggest moment of my life and football, really, because that led me to my dreams, if you like.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think a lot of people that are outside of the game see the moves, and they see Elliott Bennett's moved from Wolves to Brighton, and they probably don't actually appreciate what actually goes on behind the scenes to make that move happen, and almost the people that it affects, right? So, I think that's really nice that you've used that as the example, because it is a big life move, isn't it? I mean, from Telford to Brighton's 3.5 hours, if not more, I guess. And it's you're up even, you're basically moving your life completely somewhere different, aren't you?
Yeah, look, we all love transfer deadline day, and we're all interested in our team and hoping that we can nick the next superstar from this place. And in reality, of course, it's great as a footballer when you get a big move on deadline day, and you get to live out your dreams. It's I'm never going to downplay that for 1 minute, even though now I'm on the other side of it. But there is a lot of people behind the player. Obviously there's a person first and foremost, and then you've got family, friends, wives, girlfriends. Obviously at the time I didn't have kids, but there's players that have got kids that are in school, and it's a big life change. And for me, that was the first time I'd ever lived away from my support network, if you like. In 3.5 hours, although it's not not the other side of the world, it feels it when you're a 19-year-old lad, and you're used to, like I said, we'd moved into our first apartment, and when we didn't have any food in, which was quite often, and couldn't be bothered to cook, would ring the mother and father-in-law or my mom and ask if we can come round for dinner. And we go around and it's a free dinner, and we go home and think, buzzing, we haven't got to wash up, we haven't had to cook anything, we haven't had to pay for anything. Brilliant. Obviously, then you move down to Brighton, and that kind of support network is just not there anymore. And to be honest, it was the making of me and my wife, if you like. It's all well and good being a girlfriend and boyfriend moving into a place, but surrounded by your family and friends. But when it's just you two, it kind of either makes or breaks you. And thankfully for us, it's been a good thing, and we're still together and living a happy life with our 2 children.
Fantastic. And I mean, what were some of the players and the manager at Brighton? And obviously, I'm sure that they made you feel very welcome down there. And how did they help with that journey?
Yeah, really good, great group of lads. Obviously, for me, I'd been obviously an academy player, but been around the first team at Wolves, and they were all great lads. But then, when I went down there, I was signed for money, so people are expecting something from you. And I was joining a group of lads that, it meant everything on a Saturday to win. When you're in the reserves at or under 23s, 21s, as it's known now, it's all about development and your individual learning. Now, I was stepping into a place where you get 3 points, we get a little bit of extra money, you get 3 points and you get promoted. The whole club goes up, and that kind of side of it for me was a big thing, and one that I really enjoyed, because it's, them wins on a Saturday or a Tuesday night really meant something to not only the players and the staff involved because of the work you put in the week, but people paying to come and watch you play football. The fans of football, I've always said it throughout my career, and I'll maintain it to this day, are everything. Obviously, I was fortunate and unfortunate, if you like, to play during the COVID times, and they were, as a player, absolutely disgusting, horrible. And the sentiments that people were putting out at the time was about fans and football's nothing without them and all that. And I know things get forgotten very quickly, but for me, that was a great moment in terms of understanding how much it means to have people in a stadium watching you play football. And for me, that was all I ever dreamt of as a kid. Used to go to Molineux. I remember my first time there watching 16, 17-year-old Robbie Keane play for Wolves and thinking, I'd love to do that one day. Look at all these people coming to watch, even when you're warming up and things like that. And yeah, that was that's one of that's one of the best things that I've experienced, to be honest, is just people coming to watch you play football.
Yeah. And I think with the COVID times, I mean, obviously when you sort of experienced it, you were maybe a little bit more mature in your career, so it probably had more of an impact. I mean, I don't know if it's fair to say, but it perhaps had more of an impact on you being a seasoned professional than, say, if you were 17, 18, 19, just stepping into the first team and playing in front of effectively nobody. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. And, I think it's probably, for me, it was hard because I'd been used to playing in front of, fans at Carrow Road and at Ewood Park, where there was, and going to away games, there's 20, 30,000 people watching. And that was the buzz for me. Do you know what I mean? That whole build up to a game, smelling the pies and the chips in the air when you're warming up, like, even though I really wanted one, but we didn't have one. That's kind of the build up to the game for me. And then, but on the flip side to that, I'd say, for the younger players that were making their debuts, or was their first season in professional football, it was probably a nicer introduction for them, because there was less, I don't want to say less pressure, because there's still 3 points on the line, but less pressure in terms of every pass you make, there's not like something you can hear, or do you know what I'm trying to say? So it was probably a bit easier from that sense, and I could shout across the pitch to a younger player, not shout at, but try to encourage and help, and they could actually hear you. Whereas, what it's like at Carrow Road, 26,000 there, and it's bouncing. I can't hear my own self speak, let alone the person next to me. So it's probably good for them.
I think there was a game during the COVID season where we won 7-0 against Huddersfield. No, this is Norwich. And we would never have won 7-0 if it wasn't for the fact that there was no one there. it just would have been because each goal would have built up, and then some of the goals in that game were just I don't want to use the word liquid football, but liquid football. It was incredible.
If it's the same team I'm thinking of, then it would have been liquid football. You're right.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was I think one of the goals was Kieran Dow to Emi Buendia. Emi Buendia just lobbed it back into Kieran Dow, and he just almost sort of reboned it in. If that's the right phrase. But it was incredible.
That team there from Norwich, like the Buendia, Pookie, Murphy.
Yeah.
That era. It was in the middle. Who played in the midfield?
We had at that
Vrancic.
point. Ollie, and Ollie Skip.
Yeah, Vrancic. Yeah,
it was incredible. And it was that season behind closed doors where I think the first few games we really struggled, but it just clicked after that, and we romped the league and we're back in the Premier League again. But I maintain, I think if we hadn't have had the advantage sounds like such a horrible thing to say, but of being able to play behind closed doors, we would have we'd nowhere near, because we just had a really good squad that year that were able just to crack on and push on. But I just think, although we did experience that, I don't think it was any good for, as you say, some of the mental aspects of some of those younger players that perhaps hadn't experienced that before. So it's incredible really to think back, and I think that was 5 years ago now. It seems like yesterday, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
100%. So, I mean, just before we move on to question 2, I mean, how did the journey from you transitioning to Norwich? Was it from Brighton? We signed you from Brighton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that transition like?
It was a strange one, really, because that championship season for Norwich, and we were doing really well at Brighton in League One. Norwich tried to buy me in the January. Quite hard, to be fair. Like, I think there was like 4 or 5 offers. And it got to a point where I was having like a meeting with the manager every other day. He was pulling me in the office. Oh, there's been another bid from Norwich, and it got to a point, and to be fair play to Gus Poyet at Brighton at the time. He just said, look, like, at this point, I'm saying to the owners, they have to let you go for that price. And I just I was naive, young. We were flying high at the top of League One. Like, we won the league in the end, but we were doing really well. So I spoke to the chairman and basically handed a transfer request in, because I wanted to be a part of, Norwich Football Club, massive football club. And the chairman, Tony Bloom, obviously still the chairman at Brighton now, just said, look, like, I don't need the money. I'm not interested in that. The new stadiums are going to be built for next season, and this club has to be playing championship football, so you're staying. And that was the end of that, really. And I just thought, and then he offered me a new contract, so I ended up signing, stayed. We got promoted. Obviously, Norwich got promoted on that day at Portsmouth, and it was actually a crazy story, because we were in for Brighton, because we'd already been promoted. He took us away to Marbella, the owner did.
Oh, nice.
So I say mid-season, there's a couple of games to go. We're all in this restaurant. We're all celebrating and stuff, and Norwich Portsmouth was actually on that evening down at Fratton Park. Simeon Jackson goal.
Simeon Jackson, right? David Fox put the ball in. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, so that day.
Didn't you fall over, Jez?
Say that again, Morgan.
Didn't you fall over?
Fall over? No, someone near me did, and I can't remember who it was that we had on the pod, but I saw it and he saw it, but I can't remember who it was. Sorry, Benno, carry on.
Yeah, so we were in the restaurant, and one thing that had happened after the transfer request got, kind of rejected and signed a new contract, the owner actually met me and said, look, get us promoted, help get us promoted. If Norwich get promoted and they want to sign you, gentleman's agreement, I'll let you go. So, but I never ever thought anything of that then. I signed a new contract. The Norwich thing was kind of done, if you like. We got promoted to the Championship. We're in Marbella, and then he starts tapping this wine glass. Gus Poyet stands up and he's like, everyone, congratulations on a great season. I just want to say congratulations to Benno. So I'm sat there. I don't know anything's going on. I'm not checking my phone. I don't know what's going on. He's gone, Benno, I've got a great feeling that you're going to be a Premier League player next season.
Wow.
So everyone starts clapping, and I'm still like, I don't know what he's on about. He's like, Norwich have just beaten Portsmouth, they've been promoted to the Premier League. I'm like, I don't really know why that's got anything to do with me. I know I handed a transfer request in January, but that was for the Championship. The chances of them wanting me in the Premier League is going to be, next to zero, because the floodgates kind of open to who you can sign. And then they obviously Norwich came back in, and fair play to Tony Bloom. He was good to his word and said, you off you go. And that was how it came about, really.
No, it's great. And I think it was there was some sort of, shall we call them, sort of key Paul Lambert signings, wasn't there? It was yourself, Anthony Pilkinson, Steve Morrison, who were all sort of lower league, if forgive me, but lower league players that had cut their teeth, but actually wanted to prove themselves at a higher level. And obviously, I feel you fell into that category and hit the ground running. And I always remember a game with my wife that's sitting in the next room from me. We went to White Hart Lane and watched you score that goal against Spurs. We were actually in one of those what they called like executive boxes.
Prawn sandwich brigade.
Yeah, and I don't usually do it. I'll be honest, I don't usually do it, but we knew someone that was a Spurs fan and very kindly invited. No, I was a Norwich fan and very kindly invited me along. One of the best goals that I've seen away from home for Norwich, and just the way you took it was superb. But the best thing for me was the fact that I jumped up straight away, and there was two people either side of me in these other executive boxes that saw that I did it and was sort of giving me evils and stuff. But he was wearing that lovely green kit, if you remember.
Oh, I love that shirt.
That's a lovely shirt, wasn't it? But no, I think you sort of getting back to my point about the types of players that Paul Lambert liked to sign. I mean, Steve Morrison, I'm not sure if we got him directly from Stevenage, but he was a Stevenage player. Obviously, Anthony Pilkington from Huddersfield, I'd want to say. Might not be. But yeah, it was just, I think I really liked the way that we did that. Should we call it transfer business back then? And it was just, it was a pleasure to see. But I guess the question that's I've gone around the houses, I guess. But how did that sort of group feel when you sort of walked first in? What was your first impressions?
It felt very much like Brighton, I'll be honest, because there was no superstar player. There was no, although I was joining a Premier League club in name, it wasn't a Premier League group of players. It wasn't a Premier League manager as such, if you know what I mean. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that in the most positive way, in terms of he kept us all grounded. Everyone was grounded anyway, because we were all, League One, Championship type players that had just been given this opportunity to, go and cut our teeth in the Premier League in the biggest stage. And it was really seamless transition because there was no egos in the dressing room. And I think that squad that we had was, the reason why we ended up finishing, I think it was 12th the first season, 11th the next, because we didn't try and be anything that we're not. We knew what we were. We were also grateful and worked hard for each other to be and stay where we were for as long as we could. And then obviously, you know what it's like. You get a couple of seasons in the Premier League where you stay up and clubs start to think outside the box and push for different things, when in reality we were all, quite happy with just being mid-table mediocrity, if you like. I think that's not a bad place to be for a team that just gets promoted from the Championship. And then, it all kind of changed a little bit, and we signed some, players that weren't of the same, I don't want to say, not bad lads. They were all really nice lads, but of a different mindset, come from different places, bigger places, if you like. And I do think that season it kind of just upset the balance of what we had, really, because you're bringing in players that have earned significantly more, are earning probably significantly more, and and then everything starts to kind of change, and then everyone starts to feel a bit more, I don't want to say entitled because that's the wrong word, but start to feel like, oh, we're Premier League now. Whereas the 2 seasons prior to that, I feel like everyone still felt like we were just League One Championship players that had got a good crack at the Premier League, and we'd all happily go out into Norwich and go for a meal, and I wouldn't ever think, oh, don't speak to me, and I'm not signing an autograph, or I'm not. We were all just very much the same people that came to watch us, the fans. We were those people, but just were fortunate enough to put the shirt on and play on the pitch. And I just feel that third season it changed a bit.
There was a collectiveness, wasn't there?
Obviously, as a fan, like it's something that we all experienced, Jez. But I feel that that sort of period of time, we've sort of touched on question 2 quite a bit, but I want to follow up on an element of what you were talking about, and then Jez, you can follow on with question 3, because I feel we've done 2 by proxy. But I feel that that's what that 17-18 squad under Daniel Farker was very much like what you're explaining now, like battlers that were, they were a team, some of their parts. And when we fast forward to 2021, we got promoted under the COVID season. And then post that, we're going back to exactly what you've just said there. We hire in, we get in a bunch of players that we change the formation. We get in players that, who was that Scottish midfielder, Jez, that we got in on loan?
Billy Gilmore,
Matthias Norman. We sell Emi Buendia, and it just completely upset the dressing room. I wasn't there, but I'm making an educated guess of what happened. And we were all really excited over that summer. I know I was like, oh, these players are coming in. I remember that summer that you sort of referenced, Benno, like Elmander, Hooper, Van Wolfswinkel, Leroy Fer. It was very exciting for a Norwich fan, but you lost that sense of, I guess, cohesion and that notion of battlers. It's like Sheffield United when they went up, a few years ago, and they stayed up under Wilder for quite a few seasons, but it felt there was an echo of that whole time under Lambert, with who was Billy Sharp was our Grant Holt, really.
Yeah.
But I think, I think that it comes up a lot on this podcast, but I think it's becoming harder and harder and harder to have that sense of down to earth sort of moral values, as it were. If you get up to the Premier League now, you have to spend 150 million plus just to finish in the bottom half of the table. And I think you lived through, or was part of, you must look back on this now and go, I was part of something that is probably never going to be again, like that whole, League One to Championship to the Premier League. That was an incredible feat for that team. And also, Grant Holt as a figurehead, that guy went through League One, Championship, Premier League, and there was calls for him to be in the England side. That guy stepped up all of you stepped up every single, measure. You must be immeasurably proud of what you achieved.
Yeah, incredible. And look, I think the big part of that group, if you like, was the manager. The manager was outstanding for me. Not just because he gave me my dream, if you like, playing in the Premier League, but because of how he was. He connected with the fans. He wanted, he let us all know how great we were every day. Not to be scared about playing Tottenham or Arsenal or Man United. It's the same pitch. It's 11 men against 11 men. If you tackle them hard, it's gonna hurt them just as much as it hurt. Just really made us feel like on top of the world. But I think most importantly, I think for the fans, there was a team of players that you could relate to.
Yeah.
And I think when you've got a relationship with a fan base where the fans can relate to the players and the players relate to the fans, it can create something quite magical, which is what I think happened. What I do think happens is fans and players' expectations rise with success, with doing. I'm calling success, finishing 11th and 12th in the Premier League. I know that's not a trophy, but that is successful for a newly promoted team.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
I think from that then becomes an expectation is what's next.
Yeah.
Because you can't just, fans don't want to keep seeing their team finish 11th and 12th. Now, you can go and ask Stevenage fan right now, for the next 5 years, you can finish 12th in the Premier League. Every single one of them would do anything for that to happen. But once you're in that position and you finish after the third season, you've done that, you go, nah, I don't want this anymore. Like, come on, let's see what else we can do. And then obviously football clubs change their mindset and fans change their mindset, and everyone wants this marquee player and change of style and all this kind of football stuff, which I completely understand it, because why not shoot for the moon? As a football fan, we all do it. You dream big, and that's part of it. But then sometimes you can kind of lose what it is that got you to where you are, where you were, and then all of a sudden you find yourself back out of it, going, "Oh, I wish we'd have, stuck with what we had before." But then it's too late. Do you know what I mean? And look, I'm not saying that if that group of players at that time were in the Premier League now, we'd do that. I'm not saying that for 1 minute, because football evolves and changes. But I do think that just that group we had and the kind of togetherness that we had as a football club was really special time.
100%. And I think as well as that is, our hands were forced, weren't they, a little bit, because obviously Paul Lambert left and went to Aston Villa, sadly. And I think, we brought in Chris Hughton. I think first season he went on an unbeaten run of 7-8 games, was it?
Yeah.
And I do wonder when the board look back at that and go, oh, wow, we've got a manager here that can actually get us a run of results in the Premier League. Shall we give him a few bigger named players, i.e. Ricky Van Volswinkel and Leroy Fer, just to try and bolster the squad a little bit? And was that what they were thinking when they brought these players in, without actually thinking, as you say, and disrupting the equilibrium of that teamwork and team ethic? And would they have just been better to sort of continue down that route? But sort of moving on to Chris, then Chris, like I know him. Talk a little bit about Chris Hughton and what he brought to Norwich City Football Club.
Yeah, look, Chris was completely different to Paul Lambert. Opposite end of the scale. Paul Lambert was a manager that everyone, and I don't say this by saying people disrespected Chris Hughton, but everyone had full respect for him, because everyone knew that we were only there because of him ultimately. He had the biggest say, the biggest voice. Everyone was scared, I'd say, like a bit in fear of him. Obviously knew what he'd done as a player. Anything he said went, kind of everyone knew their place. And I do think when you've got a group of, highly strung, hormonal, everyone thinks they're the best 25 group of men, it's probably best that you rule that way. Otherwise, you give 25 lads a inch, they'll ultimately take a mile. And, Chris Hughton was completely opposite. I'd say was very much left it to the lads, not in terms of the tactics and stuff, but I just mean him running the dressing room, and things like that. And I think he did give us a little inch, tried to trust us as a group of men, and as I said, that ultimately ends in that same group of men taking a mile. I'm not saying that's right, and I'm not saying that's the manager's fault, but it's just invariably that's the way it goes. But look, for me, I've got nothing but respect for Chris Hughton. Obviously, he was the manager in probably the hardest time in my career when I did my ACL. Backed me, knew that I had the opportunity before my ACL to go to Aston Villa, obviously with Paul Lambert, and he didn't want that to happen, so obviously it didn't happen. Then I got injured, and instead of kind of casting me aside because I'm of no use to the football club, honoured the contract that the club offered me, and I signed that and did my rehab, and obviously came back and things like that. And I'll be eternally grateful to Chris Hughton and the board, Delia Smith at the time, for, I want to say, doing the right thing, but I think in football that is something that doesn't happen all that often. But they did, and I've got nothing but gratitude for Chris and for obviously for the board at the time.
I think it's the measure of the club, isn't it? I think sometimes, we as Norwich fans, we sometimes look at the club and go, oh, well, they don't do this, they don't do that. But I think at the heart of it, the club do care about their players and they do care about the supporters. And I think they like to sort of portray this family club, which they are. They will say portray as if they're trying to put it on, but they're really not. And I think at the time when Delia Smith was in charge, obviously we've moved on now to a new owner, but I certainly got that feel as a fan of this sort of community club that supported everyone: players, management, fans, supporters, volunteers, people that work for the club behind the scenes, and we all felt part of it.
Yeah, 100%, and that's what makes it the football club it is. You don't go to League One and have 20,000+ fans if you're not that type of club. You see it happen all the time. There's other clubs that have a similar kind of fan base size to Norwich that end up slipping down the leagues and their gates dwindle, and then it all they get promoted again and promoted, and it all goes back up again. But with Norwich, it didn't really change. I spoke to the lads. Obviously, I wasn't part of the League One season, but I remember playing at the Wivdean against Norwich, and the away end sold out in League One. Do you know what I mean? When you think,
incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I'll go to the Premier League, skip to the Premier League when I'm playing my first game at Carrow Road, and I'm like, wow. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a really, really important thing for I'd say for all football clubs, but I don't think it happens for all football clubs, and that's probably testament to how the clubs run and how the fans probably have been engaged over the years with, with the ownership, with the players, having a relationship with them.
Yeah, 100%. No, and so obviously you did eventually leave Norwich, unfortunately. Talk to us a little bit about your career thereafter, because obviously I know you went to Blackburn, but was there any other clubs that you represented?
Yeah, so I ended up going to Blackburn. I went on loan to Bristol City, obviously, in my time at Norwich. After the playoff final, we got promoted, obviously, against Middlesbrough, and then I thought I'd be signing at Bristol City, and then Blackburn, Paul Lambert was the manager, called me up, and then it was kind of no brainer. Can't wait to get back and play for Paul. Then I spent 5.5 years there, captain the club. Nearly 200 appearances, which I'm, ridiculously proud of. And then we got after COVID. I still had a year left. I'd seen out that year. Thought I'd be probably ending my career at Blackburn, and things kind of changed really with how they saw my role and what they thought of me as a player. I guess wanting to go a different route, younger players and things like that, which is fine. And ended up signing for my the place where I was born, Shrewsbury. So it's only 20 minutes from where I grew up. My kids were just about to start school, the reception year. So I thought it was, a great opportunity just to kind of put other people first rather than myself. I think as footballers, you have to be selfish. You have to, miss out on a lot of things, which I'm not, not begrudging at all. But then it comes a time in your life where you go, there's probably, after football at 35, if you're lucky, 36, 37, you've got a whole other life that you've got to live. And I just wanted to, kind of make sure that I was there for my children and my wife in the times that I probably needed to be, first sports day and nativity and things like that. If I was at Blackburn or anywhere else, I wouldn't have been able to make it. And, to most people, that is only little things. And you're like, oh, I wouldn't do that. I want, I need to work. I want to, but for me, as someone who's missed out on a lot of probably key moments. The first time they're walking, talking, these things. It does come to a point where you go, there's more to life than football and yourself. So yeah, it was time to be a dad.
Yeah. Well, this is it. And I think, again, it goes back to my point earlier on of that human side, doesn't it? The human element of that footballer that can't be there for those key times. And, Christmas Day, you're probably training on Christmas Day, aren't you? And not being able to be there when your loved ones are opening the presents and stuff. And, you can't repeat those times in life. But actually, you're right. I don't know how many, it's going to sound really mushy, but I don't know how many of our fans have actually thanked you for your efforts during the time at Norwich, and thanks for actually having to probably force down some pasta on Christmas Day, which is probably never.
No, but that's all just part of it, though, isn't it? It's like saying, I'll always appreciate fans, and I've got nothing but love for fans of all the football clubs that I've played for, because without them, football isn't the same game, as we've touched on with the COVID thing.
Of course.
And there's fans that are out there that will miss out on all sorts of things to watch their football team. Boxing Day, you could easily sit at home, playing game, but you don't. You want to go and watch football, and well, no, don't do them. Strongly advised, don't do that. But you know what I mean? It's like it is hard, but it's just part of it. And I don't ever look back now and think, oh, bloody hell, I wish I would have had that Christmas at home, because I've got a lifetime, hopefully, of Christmases with my family and my kids, and eating and drinking and doing all the things that everyone enjoys. And it's a very small price to pay for the amount of amazing things you get to do, like even just forget monetary, financial, anything like that, but just getting to run out of a tunnel with 27,000 yellow shirts in a crowd, like going to Wembley, 90,000 people there, one half of it's red, one half of it's yellow. Like I didn't obviously get on the pitch that day. I was on the bench, and but just doing that to warm up, I'm like, that's the reason why all those things are really insignificant. Because if I asked most Norwich fans, and probably you two as well, what would you give for that moment? You don't have to say, but I know it would be a lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think you talk about that Wembley final, and I think Pratton Park was special. It was special, the day we got promoted there. But I wouldn't swap that Wembley win for anything. I thought it was incredible. It was such a great day, and everything that happened along the way, and the goal that Redmond scored, where there was about 20 passes before we actually put the ball in the back of the net. It was just incredible. And even that team, we haven't even touched on that. What was it like playing under Alex Neil?
Yeah, it was almost like going back to Paul Lambert, to be honest. He was very straight talking, straightforward. I don't want to say it's a Scottish thing, but maybe it is. And when he got announced as manager, I think a lot of people, the players included, I'll be honest, were a bit unsure as to how he would be the person to guide us back to the Premier League. And on the first day, he called a meeting and just said, I don't care if you know me, what you know about me, or if you think you know me. I'm the manager of this football club. You lot are massively underperforming for this group of players. The objective is to get promoted. If you've got a problem with me and my credentials and the fact that I've only, been in the Scottish Premier League, or, as a player and as a player manager, come and see me and you can leave. And from that moment, everyone's like, this guy means business. Come on, let's get down to it.
Yeah.
And not one person went and knocked on his door, because I think he'd knocked him out, to be honest.
Even then, you say it was similar to the Lambert days, but I think even then we had some characters in the direct, like Kyle Lafferty, Graham Durrans, the one that escapes me, it was Cameron Graham, who is an absolute legend for what he did for our football club as well. And I think there was some big characters around Russell Martin, obviously he was the captain, wasn't he? And what was your, so obviously moving forward then it was almost like it wasn't a completely different side obviously, but what was your relationship with some of the players like then? I mean, Wesley Houlan, what a player he was.
Yeah, every time anyone says his name with a smile.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Honestly, if you see a better player than him for a consistent amount of time, I'd love to know. Because absolute magician of a footballer and one of the most down-to-earth, nicest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, football's just easy for him. He's just a normal lad, just puts his boots on. Half the time doesn't even tie them up and just goes and runs rings around people. It's not fair, to be honest, but that was the talent that he had.
Do you think as well as that though, that, you know, the fact that Paul Lambert came in League One for us and he was playing, I think when we signed him, Glenn Roeder signed him from Blackpool, from memory.
Yeah, you're right.
Played him on the left wing, and I don't think he was as effective as when he got moved into the centre, played in the number 10 role.
Yeah. Never been a left winger.
No, that's what I mean, and I think he was wasted out there. And as soon as Lambert brought him into the middle, and we played the diamond formation in League One, that was for me. I don't know if I'd be so brave as to say that was the making of him, because I think he's obviously naturally gifted, and what a footballer he was.
It was an opportunity. It was a platform.
An opportunity. Yeah, he gave him the platform.
But the same with Holt. You know, he'd been around sort of lower leagues for a while, and I said to you, you know, as I pointed out, Benno, earlier, like you guys all stepped up through all of those leagues, like, you know, and that's talent. You know, you were some of your parts, but if you didn't have that talent or the direction, you know, there's no way you'd have made it to that third season in the Premier League. And I find that's the thing that's really amazing as part of that squad, is your ability to actually do it, like to keep on hitting those high notes. I mean, what, like, you know, how was that physically? What was the physical demand on your bodies then?
I'll be honest, I didn't ever think about it. And I don't mean that to say that, you know, I was a supreme athlete or anything like that. But I think when you've been given the opportunity to live out a dream, how can you say you're tired? Do you know what I mean? It's like you get given your dream, and then all of a sudden you go, I'm really tired. Like, it doesn't add up. Do everything you can not to be tired, because every time you get the opportunity to go and, you know, play in the Premier League, like I remember, who did we play? I think it was Swansea away, and we won 3-2, 3-1, something like that.
3-2.
And I set up two of the goals, and I remember going home and watch Match of the Day, as you know, as a football fan, and my face is the graphic that they're then talking about, and I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like mind-blowing moments that will stay with me forever.
Yeah.
And you look back and you go, I can't ever remember in those times ever feeling that it was demanding in terms of, like, physically. It was just really, really enjoyable. And every time I got the opportunity to do it, I thanked my lucky stars. And I look back now and think, I wish I had my head now then, because I would have taken it in even more. Obviously, as a younger lad, 20, 21, 22, you're not thinking about it too deeply. You're just playing football. Whereas I wish I had have thought about it a bit deeper and really soaked in just stupid moments, like, you know, waking up in the morning at the hotel and getting a police escort to a ground. Like, now I think back and I'm like, amazing. But at the time, I'm just sat on the bus waiting to get to the game. Whereas I wish I had, like...
Yeah, but if you'd have thought about it deeper at the time, I don't think you wouldn't have been as successful. Because I think, me and Jez have been, we've had, again, I always reference this episode, but it was a great episode. Drew Broughton, before we did video, when was it, Jez? The start of last year?
Yeah, it was pretty much this time last year, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and he was talking about the notion of, like, thinking and getting in. I think some players, from what I understand, forgive me if I'm wrong, because I've never been a professional footballer, but when you start to overthink or you get in your head, you know, that's when you start to like, it's like anything, work, day work that I do or whatever, you can overthink things and you bungle stuff, right? I think if you had overthought things and not just lived in the moment, maybe you wouldn't have been as successful as you were.
Yeah, possibly, but I think now, because it worked out the way it did, I'm just looking back at it from, you know, with kind of fresher eyes now and thinking, I wish I'd have maybe enjoyed it a touch more, just so that.
Yeah, so I mean that's great, Ben. I mean, we just obviously one of the questions we wanted to focus on is when you was on Canary Call the other week, you talked a little bit about youth football in the UK, and how it might not be sort of conditioning players how they used to, and for the intensity of top tier football. I mean, talk to us. I mean, because Norwich have had so many injuries in the last 2 years. Morgan, would you say? I think we've currently got 12 first team players out injured. I mean, talk to us a little bit about that, and you know, do you think it's what the question I'm going to ask is? Do you think it's, I don't know, use the word worse, but do you think it's worse now than perhaps what it was 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think look, there's a lot more analysis and data that goes into preparing football players, young and old. But I do feel like because of that, we've kind of lost the way of making players resilient. So I can remember, you know, coming through the academy, I'd play a game on a Saturday or a Sunday, but yeah, Saturday with the youth team, under 18s, and then get told, oh, the reserve team needs you on Monday night. So then I'd be in on a Sunday and I'd train with the reserves on a Sunday and then maybe play, you know, 90 minutes on a Monday. And then you're in training again on a Tuesday, and you know you're kind of going back to back to back to back. I'm not saying you don't get days off, but I think that was good for me because my body got used to just playing football, being on my feet. Whereas now I feel like there's a lot of, oh, we have reduced minutes. He can only do 45 minutes, and oh, he sprinted 500 meters today, so tomorrow he can't do any sprints. So I'm just a bit like, what? Okay, if your body feels like, and look, I'm not saying there's not a place for it in the game, because obviously there is, and the more we protect, you know, the players and make sure that they're on the pitch, the better for fans. But I do feel like there's a lot, and maybe it's the intensity, I don't know, but I do feel like there's a lack of resilience in people, not just physically, but probably mentally as well. You know, we're so quick to protect and shelter everyone from everything, and you know, I've been into a few different youth teams, obviously with, you know, going to Blackburn and Shrewsbury, and like what the things that they don't do anymore because they're not allowed to is bewildering.
Yeah.
So just like when I came through, I'm cleaning boots. You know, I was buzzing to clean the first team players' boots. I'm doing match duty where we had to go to the ground at Molineux and wait till after the game and pick up the kit and help the kit man and ask any of the lads if they want a water and a cup of tea. And it gives you that real interaction with the first team when you're nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Then it makes you appreciate, oh, I want to be them one day, like give you that drive. And then, you know, I came to Norwich and, you know, they were still doing it. I remember, I actually still to this day, I can't remember if it was Josh or Jacob that used to clean my boots, but I think it was Jacob Murphy. And, you know, they were still doing it then. And then after a couple of years, it got knocked on the head. And after that, it's just not a thing anymore. And I don't know, I just feel like you're not building any characters anymore. It's you kind of making young kids feel like they've made football before they've kicked a football professionally. And I don't mean that in the Premier League. I just mean at any level. You know, I see them now. They're all driving nice cars. They all got the wash bag under their arms and all that. And I remember going into training. I had a JD bag. Obviously, there is other retailers, by the way, for everyone. But you know, I had a JD bag over my shoulder. I just got off the bus.
Yeah.
A train and then a bus to training, and you go in there, and first team players are like, "Oh, you haven't cleaned my boots with dubbing," and you're like, "Oh, I'll do it now. Sorry." Do you know what I mean? Just like little things, and just builds a bit of character and resilience with your body and mentally and everything. And now it's just all very, I don't know. I feel like
Clinical.
everyone's just clinical and soft, and you don't build any character in terms of physically, mentally. Everyone's the same. And then you get the odd one that steps out the box, and everyone's a bit like, "Oh, wow! Like how amazing is he?" And you think, not really. He's just how he should be at that age. He should.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Do you know what?
That's
Do you
just
know what
my
I blame?
opinion on it. I'm not going to change anything though. So
Do you know what I blame?
go on.
And it's going to sound like I know what I'm talking about here, but it's the EPP, which is the Elite Player Performance Plan, which came into play 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So each category, each academy in the UK is now categorized into 1, 2, 3, and 4, I believe. And it's basically weighted. So if you get a player that's in category 4, that's going to be, as they see it with the Elite Player Performance Plan, going to be a superstar, they get upgraded to category 1, a category 1 status academy, and they go for a minimal fee. But with this EPP, gone are the days where we're going to gather as Zlatan Ibrahimovic walking on the pitch or a Wesley Houlihan, because they're going to look at those players and go, well, he's too flamboyant, he's too much of a character, he ain't going to fit into our system, he's too small, he's never going to be able to make it because he's 4 foot nothing. And sorry, Wes. But it's just, you know, the game's gone. And, you know, I know that saying's jucks around a lot, but the game is gone.
I agree. Look, the whole, look, my son's just joined an academy now. He's at Wolves as well, under 9. He absolutely loves it. He doesn't understand all the everything behind it, but I like to think that I'm bringing him up in the way that, football wise anyway, I'm letting him enjoy it, but certain things are like non-negotiable. There's no, I'm tired, you playing, like, you love playing football, so play football. Like, what you moaning about? I can be tired at 9, because I can guarantee you can say you're tired, you won't play any minutes, we'll come home and you want to run around. How's that work?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a mental thing. And look, like, I think the academy systems is great, and you know, the things these kids get are great, and the opportunities and the facilities and everything's fantastic. But my biggest urge for any under 19, 20-year-old kid is, if you're at a big academy and you're not playing football for the first team, get yourself out on loan to, for Norwich's sake, Kings Lynn Town and these sort of places, and go and play with men where it means something on a Saturday, and people are coming to watch you, and earn your respect, earn the right to say that you play football. Don't just play at it and, I'm staying at Norwich because it's nice and the training ground's absolutely incredible and the chef's dinner's amazing. No, go on loan and go and get your own butties from the butty shop. Like, because then when you've done that, when you step back into the Norwich environment, you see how hard it has been.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't want to do it. I want this. And then it gives you a different perspective and makes you go, if I think I've been given 100, I've probably been given 80. So I can find that other 20% to take me to 100 to stay here.
Yeah.
It's just a mindset of being grounded. You know, I think even in this podcast goes out to people, you know, you can apply that to, you know, teenagers now, like doing their day jobs. Like my first ever job, full time, like part time, I worked in a fish and chip shop in Durham, where I'm from, called Big Fry, and I was.
They always get a plug, don't they? They always get a plug.
Yeah, but it's not called that anymore. And but there's a reason for that. Is because that was my first ever job, and I look back. I still have dreams about it. I still remember like how to make the batter mix perfect, and how to like fry the chippies at the back, and how to cut the chips, and how to do the haddock, and it wasn't sexy. It's not cool. I didn't get like girls weren't fawning over me because I stank of fish and chips at night when I left Big Fry. But you know what? Like it taught me to work, and it taught me, it taught you a good work ethic. And I've been lucky enough to be involved in some great companies since and currently. But you're right. I think you can apply that mindset. It's about earning that right, and basically being knee deep in the shit to then go, actually, I've put my shoulder to the wheel. I know what graft is, and you can apply that to any kind of trade. I think, early. Yeah, so I think it's a really valid point.
100%. And Elliot, Morgan, did you want to just ask the last question before you do the random question of the week? Because I stole question 4 from you. I apologise.
You did. So what's next? Have you got any? Still see you safe? Do you see yourself staying involved in football through coaching, mentoring, or something beyond the pitch?
Yeah, so I'd like to get involved in mentoring. To be honest, coaching. I do a little bit of coaching with my brother's got his own football academy thing that he runs where we're from, which he's doing great with, and like fair play to him. He proper grafts at it, and they've just had a half-term week, obviously last week, and I think on over the 3 days they had 180 kids, I think, which is
amazing,
which is great. So he's doing really well with that. So I help out with that now and again, but I feel like my skill set's probably more in the mentoring side, like mindset, and I'm not saying not coaching at all, but I feel like I can get connections with people as opposed to players. I don't want to be another coach that has to adhere to F triple P and P double F and all these fancy names that they come up with. Just connect with a person, try and help them mentally in terms of how they see things, and then when it comes to football, if I've got that connection already with you, but then I ask you, right, okay, what are you struggling with football? And they say, oh, my crossing's not great. I feel like I've got the knowledge, skill set to then go, right, okay, let's go and look at your clips from the weekend, and we'll bring up all your crosses you did. What do you think you could have done better? Well, I think you could have done this. And okay, but I don't really understand yet. Okay, let's go out on the grass and I'll show you.
Yeah.
That kind of, and then you build up a relationship and a rapport with someone that then when you speak, it has more effect or weight or meaning to that person, as opposed to just being a coach that you're coaching 20 lads, and how do you then focus on one or two that, because you can have a group of 20 where 16 of them, 17 of them are jovial every day, they're great, but you have 3 or 4 that you can see there's something in them, but you can't get it out of them, because how do you then just single out 4? It's not possible. So I'd rather be in a kind of mentoring role where I'm helping players out on loan, helping younger players that are trying to break into the first team, just things like that, really. That's probably where I see myself football-wise, to be honest.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's a bit more empathetic. Yeah. It's a bit more of an empathetic approach than just...
just a bit more, less... what's the word? Not corporate, because it's not corporate, but that less professional.
No, what you're saying. Yeah, but I think as well as that, I
don't mean me not being professional, but I mean being able to...
It's in a different environment, isn't it?
And talking on a level with a younger person, rather than being in an academy where I've got to, if I'm going to speak to a 16-year-old, I've got to have another person in the room,
of course,
to know that me and them, I haven't said something to them. That just be more, I've just met you not on the street, but I've just met you, and we're having a chat in a coffee shop, and we're just talking about how you're feeling and how you feel your game's going and things like that. So they can look at me more of as a older friend rather than,
Yeah.
oh, he's a coach, and if I say something to him, he's going to go back to the academy manager, and then rather than it being like that, just be more, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to help the club. If you don't play for this football club, it doesn't matter. As long as
Yeah.
you maintain your love for football, you work hard, you've got the right morals and work ethic. If you have to go to a different club and apply them there, then great. You'll still have a career, and hopefully you can then build yourself up to wherever it is you want to get to.
No, 100%. And I think as well as that, I think you get a bit of satisfaction from that, personal satisfaction, when you see that player that probably hasn't been able to cross that ball in or hits the first man, and you then see him the next game where he's hit the ball in and matey striker number 9 headed it into the back of the net, and you've contributed to that. That must be, as you say, I think that will be the part of it for me if I was doing that role, where I'd be tremendously satisfied that I've actually contributed to that happening.
Yeah, 100%. And look, like, I think throughout my career, I still, speak to some lads that I played with that were a lot younger than me, and they still say to me, I'll text them now and say, oh, great to see you scored this weekend, and they text me back saying, oh, thanks, legend, and thank you, mate. I really appreciate your help you give me over the time, and those things for me are really, they're really important for me now. Now I'm not playing anymore.
Of course.
Just the fact that I wasn't doing that at the time to mentor them I was just doing it to them because I was trying to be a friend, a good teammate. And I look back now and I think, why wouldn't I not, now I'm not playing, try and apply those same, not be different, not try and be something I'm not, just be me. And if I can help, out a group of 20 scholars, if I can help 2 or 3 of them get a little bit more out of themselves or feel a bit better about themselves, then great. Like that's the job. That's what it's about. You can't help everyone all the time, and not everyone wants your help. And some kids nowadays at that age, they know it all already, and you're not going to be able to help them, and that's fine as well. They've got their own minds and paths, but I do feel like I could be able to help, some players, some people either become a little bit better at playing football, or even feel a little bit better about themselves as a person, which in all of it, without the player bit, which we spoke about right at the start, there's a person right behind it. And if that person's not got the right sort of things, then the player's completely irrelevant.
And I think as well, Benno, I think it keeps you involved, and I think that's the other thing about professional footballers that have finished the game, not sure what they're going to be doing with the rest of their career, because you all finish early, you all finish when most finish mid-30s to the late 30s, and something like this keeps you're not. You've admitted you don't want to go into coaching, but it actually keeps you involved in the game, because you're feeling like you're contributing, and I think that's so important that. We always talk about the mental aspect of losing that buzz of playing, to a crowd of 25,000. But you've gone on from that, and you've actually making a difference to another professional footballer that's that is living that dream, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the aim for me. Look, like, you can never replace that Tuesday night under the lights or Saturday 3:00. Like, you can't replace it. And I was at the game obviously for Norwich Blackburn, and those are the moments when I'm at the game and I'm not playing. Those are the moments I miss football. The day to day, honestly, I don't miss that bit, because for me, everything we did in the week was for the weekend or for the midweek game. That they were the bits, they were my goals. I just wanted to do what I could in the training.
Yeah.
To play on a Saturday or a Tuesday night, or I know it's all changed now, Sunday, Monday, Thursdays, and all this sort of stuff. But that's what it's about for me. So I miss those moments, but I don't. I'm quite content now that I've did a lot more than I ever thought was possible for me. I dreamt of playing one professional football match at any level, and I'm sat here now talking to you guys after playing 600.
It's amazing.
Football games professionally, 65 I think it was, in the Premier League for Norwich. Played for, you know, great football clubs, met so many great people, had connections with many fans that, you know, I don't know personally, they don't know me personally, but I've had a, you know, some sort of interaction or connection with them. And for me, that's what football's all about. And then, you know, now I'm sat at home, and not that I don't miss football, but I couldn't have got any more out of it. You know, I got way more than I ever dreamt of out of it. So
that's fantastic. Right, I think it's time, because we've taken a lot of your time up and it's late. So I'm going to pass you over to Mr. Morgan Hewitt for this week's random question of the week.
perfect.
You say that now.
Hope you're ready for this.
Random question of the week.
Here we go.
Here we go. So we've obviously got Elliott Bennett. We've got Ryan Bennett.
Oh my God, here we go.
We've got Gordon Bennett. There used to be Bennett Electrical in Durham, which has since closed. It was Bennett's. The jingle was Bennett's a great deal better. Anyway, that's since gone. However, Bennett's Electrical in Durham sold electrical goods. My question to you, Benno, the random question of the week: what electrical household appliance do you really enjoy and cannot do without?
Oh, I'm going to go with my hob. No, you're laughing. You're laughing. Listen, I do the cooking in my house. I love cooking. It's my thing. I don't do anything else. My wife's great at, you know, doing all the other things, cleaning, looking after the kids, the diaries, and washing and all that stuff. But the cooking is my thing, and without my hob, I'd be finished.
Is it an induction?
So it is induction, yeah. And I've just got a new one, an F1, and I've got no extractor above it. It sucks itself down. It is fantastic. Good bit of kit.
Yeah. Now you're talking.
There
about
are other hobs available, by the way.
There are other hobs available, but I do highly recommend the one from Neff, because it's done me well so far.
It's funny because this is going to sound like he's got a bit of an obsession with household appliances, because we had Tim Closer on recently and he asked him about household appliances, and I'm like, come on, there must have been a better one than this. But I knew he was going to go down the Bennett's electrical route. I just knew
I'm happy. No, I'm happy. Great question. You know, a lot of people would say they're speakers or Alexa or something like that. Nah, the hob. Without that, I'll be I won't be in a good place. It's the only thing I'm really good. I'm actually all right at in the house, you know, keeping the house ticking. So if everyone's fed, kids and the missus, then everyone's happy.
What's your signature dish?
Yeah, what is it?
Oh, I tell you what I've done. I'll tell you what, I don't know about a signature dish. That's not for me to say. I think that's for the people that have tasted my food. But I do a banging king prawn and chorizo linguine.
Oh, yes.
Yesterday I did a beef and Guinness stew.
Wow.
And today, don't judge me because it's Monday, not Sunday, but I did a chicken roast dinner tonight.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, it went down well.
You'll be giving Delia on for her money soon. Maybe you could move into that.
No way. I looked at her. She gave me, when I was actually playing there, she gave us all a cookbook. I looked through it and I was like, I don't know half of these ingredients. These aren't things that I can find in my local store. I mean, Delia, I know you have a greengrocer and a fishmonger and a butcher, but I don't have those things, so I can't make any of your dishes because I can't source those ingredients.
Oh dear. What about you, Morgan? What's your household appliance?
You know what? I mean, I know when we asked Tim Closer, it was more about, because it was something to do with kitchens, right? I can't remember why we got onto that.
No, I can't remember. Yeah.
No, who knows the shit that goes through my brain. But the reason I would say, and I really enjoy this, I'm stuck with it really, is the Humble Magic Mouse for MacBooks. So, no.
Yeah, look. Fun. Yeah.
Do you enjoy a cup of tea or coffee? You could have said a kettle. You know,
I don't mind.
something really useful.
This is really useful because I get to switch like screens really quickly and easily just by going like that.
Yeah.
All right, Steve Jobs.
This is Gen Z convenience. This is the life of convenience.
You're wrong because I'm not Gen Z, Benno. I'm a millennial. I'm older than you are.
Well, you're acting Gen Z.
Yeah.
You're a tech guy. 100%. You're a tech guy.
Yeah, 100
Yeah, I am.
million %.
Yeah.
Mine's the hairdryer.
What?
Is it?
You've got much hair, have you?
I ain't got any hair, but I just like the sound of it. I'm like Wayne Rooney.
Neither have I. I'm seriously struggling here, fellas.
When's
I can't say anything really, can I?
Yeah, you're doing well. You got a good head. At least you've got a good head of hair.
It always comes back to this, Jez. Every single time it comes back to this, doesn't it? It's not I didn't set this up. You guys did.
No, I know. Yeah. It's
jealousy. We're both jealous.
It's a lovely quiff. It is a lovely quiff. Ben, I think everyone would love to know when you're back on Canary Call because it was amazing. I travel, as I mentioned earlier, I travel 2 hours. I live in Hertfordshire, so I listened to Canary Call on the way home, and I was just sitting there listening. I thought it was, some of the people that come on there, and I'm not going to name any names, really struggle, and I'm not going to include Cootie in that because he does really well. But when are you next coming on?
I don't know. I'll just wait for Chris and Rob to give me a shout. Really, I guess it'd just be a game that they would like me to go and commentate on, and then I'll do that afterwards. But yeah, I've really enjoyed it. They said they enjoyed having me on, so hopefully not too far away.
Were you the week when they had the guy that had the jacket potato with a lemon curd, or was that someone else?
No, that weren't me. Because that is really offside.
Yeah, it was bizarre.
That's really offside.
It was bizarre.
Yeah,
he came on and I'm not going to do I'm from Norfolk, but I can't do the accent. But he was basically like, he has a jacket, but I don't even know how they got onto it, but they were talking about it, and they said, and the mate, he goes, "Yeah, I really like a jacket potato with lemon curd." I'm like, "What?"
I really like a jacket potato with a bit of sliced lemon curd over the top of it, a cracked black pepper, and some salt on there.
I think it's even more Norfolk than that.
There's the accent. There it is.
Yeah, you can still find it. Benno, thank you so much once again. It's been brilliant. And best of luck for the future and keep in touch. It's been great.
No, really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thank you, guys.
Not at all. No, just for everyone else. Good luck with the puzzle. Yeah, we'll have that when it's finished. Just for everyone else watching, you can follow us on all of the social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. We are also on YouTube as well. And we are very proudly supported by Masterseal, Pie Design, and the Freemasons pub, where you can get 10% off on all home and away games for the men's and women's team. I've been Jez Davies.
I've been Morgan Hewitt.
I've been Elliott Bennett.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.